Now let's see whether we can do this question called ACCA. It's very, very simple. We just want to go through the principles of how we're going to handle this kind of question where the requirement says, describe the impact on the audit report. Take note, it says audit report and not audit opinion, okay, if the issue remain unresolved. Let's have a look at the scenario. It says you're the audit manager of ACCA and PBT is 10 million. In the scenario, depreciation has been calculated on the total of land and buildings. That's kind of weird, isn't it? You're not supposed to calculate depreciation on buildings. In previous years, it had only been charged on buildings. The total depreciation is 2.5 million and the element charged to land is 0.7 million. So they charge the depreciation on the buildings and it's come up to that. So how do we begin to write out our answer? The examiner here has given us 4 marks. So we just want to know the exam technique to handle the impact on the audit report kind of questions. This kind of questions, I've got an exam technique for you. What we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the nature first. Nature means to decide whether it is a misstatement or a limitation of scope. Then we're going to consider the severity of it. For the severity, we've got to consider whether it is material and then whether it is pervasive. I told you earlier that when you have got the nature plus severity, it will be equal to the opinion paragraph. In the opinion paragraph, what do you have to write? Well, a few things. You will have to write, first of all, the type of the opinion and the reason. Then you've got to put the wording of the opinion paragraph and the title. And of course, if your opinion is a modified opinion, you will have to go on to explain the impact on the basis paragraph, how the basis paragraph will be different compared to the normal basis paragraph. Right? So in this one, you're going to say that the reason for the modification will be explained in a particular paragraph. Put down the name of that paragraph and put down the position of this particular paragraph. The title of this paragraph and the position. So each one of them, NSOB, 1 mark each. Sometimes the examiner may go up to 5 marks. All right, if the scenario is a little bit more complex. So let's apply it here. So on the nature, do you think this is a misstatement or a limitation of scope? It's a misstatement. Why? It's a violation of IAS 16. Good. Now let's calculate materiality. Is it material? You're going to calculate materiality for the 0.7 million and divide it by the 10 million. So that will give you 7%. Is 7% of PBT material? Yes. So once we've done the nature and the severity, we can very easily go on to the opinion and the basis paragraph, and we're going to write out the answer here. So I would suggest very strongly that in the exam, put down your headings. Nature. So how are we going to explain? We're going to start off with our observation first. What is the observation? That's our observation. Depreciation has been charged on land. Next, we're going to go to the accounting treatment. IAS 16 states that land must not be depreciated. Okay, so then we're going to look at consequently. Consequently, if you depreciated land, then land is understated. Okay. So if land is understated, how do we correct the situation? What is the adjustment that would be necessary? So the adjustment here would be to debit. What do we debit? You'll have to go and look at what is the original incorrect entry. They charge depreciation, right? So when they charge depreciation, what would the double entry have been like? They would have debited the operating expenses or debited depreciation, and they would have credited accumulated depreciation, right? So if you're going to reverse this, then it's the other way around. So we're going to debit accumulated depreciation and then credit depreciation, which is in the P&L. For how much? 0.7 million. Are we good so far? So what have we done so far? The observation, the story, the accounting treatment. Consequently, as a result of the wrong accounting treatment, land is now understated. What is the adjustment that you're going to put through? Then after the adjustment, your recommendation for the adjustment, you're going to say that if so this is our nature. We're saying that the financial statements are misstated. All right. Of course, the land itself is understated, but if the depreciation on the land is not reversed, the nature here is that it is a misstatement. So how are you going to remember writing all of this down? Well, I've got a way to remember it. We're going to use another acronym. Observation, accounting treatment, consequently, adjustment, and the nature of it. It is a misstatement. OACAN. And that will get the job done. How many marks you'll get for that? 1. Can you see how much you need to write in order to get that 1 mark? All right. So you have to really understand how to present your argument in respect of the nature of the opinion here. Okay, so once we finish nature, let's go on to severity. So the first one here would be the depreciation. You will not get the marks for your materiality unless you state that it is material or otherwise. Okay, so that's the first one, whether it is material. Next, pervasiveness. So we're going to say here, on its own, it is not pervasive. On its own means in isolation, because you've got to remember that in a company, you can have lots of adjustments together, but we're saying that on its own, it is not pervasive. It is material, but not pervasive. Are we good so far? So here, how does the marks work? The marks here are half mark for the calculation of materiality and half mark for your statement on whether it is pervasive. Next, opinion. So this is the opinion, paragraph. You can put the headings down. Okay, please put the headings down and use capital letters to show the examiner that you're moving from one idea to another idea, and each idea is 1 mark each, right? So now on this. Seeing that the financial statements are materially misstated due to non-compliance with IAS 16. So what have you done here? You have specified the type of the opinion, and you have also provided the reason for it. Okay, seeing that the financial statements are materially misstated due to non-compliance with IAS 16. Then we're going on to do the wording of the audit report. So that will be the wording. This is a misstatement. Because it's a misstatement, we're going to say effects, except for the effects of the matter described in the basis for qualified opinion paragraph. So we've got the name of the basis paragraph here. The financial statements show a true and fair view of whatever. Okay, so just put ... and they'll be fine. Okay, now we're going on to the title. For doing all of that, you get 1 mark. Now we're going to go on to the basis paragraph. All right, so here you've got something here. It says under the opinion will be modified. Okay, opinion will be modified. I don't want to use the word qualified, because if you get into the habit of saying qualified, then next time if you're going to say adverse opinion, then you're going to say the audit opinion will be qualified adverse. You can't say qualified adverse, because qualified is except for, adverse is adverse. So in order to make sure that you don't make that kind of a mistake, it will be a lot easier for you to use the word modified. Okay, because modified can include qualified, adverse, and disclaimer. All right, so then here, the reason for the modification, again, I use that wording. Okay, instead of saying qualification. Of course, if you say qualification in this scenario, it will be absolutely correct, because your opinion here is a qualified opinion. But what if next time you come up with an adverse opinion or a disclaimer of opinion? If you get into the habit of using the word qualified here, then the examiner says, make up your mind. Is it except for, or is it adverse or a disclaimer? All right, so that is how we get it done. So let's just revise that just a little quickly before we go. So if you've got an impact on the audit opinion question, what are you going to do? You are going to follow N-S-O-B. And when you come to the end, the nature, what are you going to do? You're going to do the observation, accounting treatment, consequently, and the adjustment, and finally come up to the nature. Is it a misstatement or is it a limitation of scope? Under severity, we've got two things. One is decide whether it is material. You've got to do a calculation. And number two, decide whether it's pervasive. Just to revise, when you're doing materiality, remember there are three kinds of materiality. Materiality as far as value is concerned, materiality in respect of impact, and materiality in relation to the nature of it. All right, and we've already covered that in ISA 450. And under the opinion, you've got to write three things: the type of opinion, the reason, and the type of opinion and the reason, then the wording of the opinion paragraph and the title of the opinion paragraph. So there are three things here on basis, but you have the reason for the modification will be explained in the name of that basis paragraph and be positioned immediately following the opinion paragraph. So that's the exam technique for impact on audit report kind of questions. Let's see how we can apply it to another one.